Good morning, legends, and welcome back to another video. I hope you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. It is fantastic to see you guys back on this channel, and it's great to have the webcam back on. Let me know down below what you guys think of the market. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin today, going over the macro, the short term, the total cryptocurrency, and total altcoin market, as well as taking a look at the big question, is the top in? We're going to be diving deep into that question today, also going over the short term, discussing the recent breakdown from this multi-week uptrend spanning back since the beginning of September, what this means, how low could Bitcoin go, and what impact that may have on the macro and short term. And of course, we'll be talking about what the buyers will need to do to regain control of what seems to be quite a weakening trend. So before we get into all of that, make sure to smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos for Bitcoin, focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, just pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you guys are interested in, you can also join us on Telegram. That is the first link down below, getting access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop for cryptocurrency with Bitcoin and the relevant economic news. And if you are interested in joining our VIP channel, you can do that by clicking the pinned comment of the free channel, contacting our admin by clicking this name, or checking out the rest of the details. Let's go ahead, guys, and jump into the content. So as we can see, Bitcoin has broken downward from the uptrend which originated essentially at the beginning of September. So we're looking around a 22-day long uptrend has now broken toward the downside, having rejected from that key level of resistance, the mid-level of this horizontal consolidation at that 117.5 to $118,000 level. We rejected from there. We saw a correction back into the uptrend. We saw the breakdown of the RSI signifying a negative momentum shift, and we have seen the price action push downwards very slightly since. It is pushing sideways, but it is pushing mostly downwards. So we're going to be discussing that in the video today. Alongside that, we can see the total cryptocurrency altcoin market cap has just closed its weekly candle. And unfortunately, it was again another weekly rejection from that major horizontal all-time high spanning back from 2021 into 2024. You can see here the weekly close occurring underneath that horizontal level of resistance at that $113 trillion level. So not a fantastic close, still really struggling to even close in this horizontal level of resistance. The total cryptocurrency market cap has closed the weekly candle above 3.95 trillion. That's a good thing. We do have that psychological resistance now at 4 trillion, but we can see the RSI is still under the uptrend, with the potential risk of a bearish divergence developing. So that is also something we are paying attention to, potential exhaustion developing for the total cryptocurrency market cap, as the altcoin market cap is at resistance and Bitcoin is showing a little bit of weakness over here, having broken below a multi-week uptrend. So a lot to discuss today. And of course, we'll also be taking a look at the total expectations for the all-time high. Is the all-time high in? Is the top of the cycle done? Is the cycle done? Or will we see the cycle break? We'll briefly touch on that and of course discuss the Bitcoin weekly chart. Let's start on the market data. 24-hour volume and liquidations, very low, guys. Volume is incredibly low, only up 12% for the last 24 hours at 166 billion. Again, coming out of the weekend. It's been quite a slow weekend in the market. 24-hour liquidations up 84%, sorry, 213 million, 140 million coming from longs, 73 million coming from shorts. So if we look at the 24-hour breakdown, Ethereum and Bitcoin aren't even topping over here. We can see most of the top liquidations are coming from altcoins here. Actually, Bitcoin being number 5 on the list. So we're seeing massive reductions in volatility here for Bitcoin, and even a little bit for Ethereum as we see the sideways chop continue through the weekend. The DXY has bounced up a little bit again, expectations were interest rate reductions. We saw the market price that in, and we saw that happen. So we're holding sideways over here. Again, depending on what happens with upcoming economic data, it's going to massively influence how the Federal Reserve challenges or tackles the decision to drop interest rates in future periods. They're kind of balancing on a fine line between dropping interest rates enough so the job market gets a little bit of a boost, but not so much that inflation starts to rise. So they're trying to find that perfect balance. And anytime you're trying to balance something, generally when you add weight to one side, you have to overcorrect the other side, and then it balances falls back to the other side. So it might be a constant back and forth between dropping rates, pausing rates, dropping rates, pausing rates, to find that balance between, again, a boosting job market and of course keeping inflation kind of in check. So I'm not really too sure how we're going to see future interest rates unfold. I think it might be a drop, then a pause, and a drop, then a pause scenario. But again, it just depends on how that inflation data does come out. Looking at the S&P 500, it is looking very, very sketchy up over here, guys. We can see some strong moves up 6,700, holding above this uptrend. But we do have the risk here of seeing a weakening positive momentum shift on the mark of cipher B. That may be an early sign of a potential reversion back into this uptrend. It's been quite some time since we've tested the 50 EMA, suggesting some very, very strong bullish volatility in this uptrend. So I do think if we do see this red dot print here, we may see a correction back to retest 6,600, maybe even that uptrend. So watching very closely the S&P 500. Moving over, guys, let's jump into Bitcoin. We have so much to be taking a look at today. As you just noticed in the introduction, there was a lot to discuss. Before we get into everything, go ahead and sign up to BitGet, BitUnix, and BingX. Those are the exchange links down below. You can also find them in our Telegram channel. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15% off all your trading fees. You'll go to support me making this content for you guys on a daily basis. And of course, we'll be trading on exchanges I use and I trust. In addition, we are giving away 120,000 US dollars in bonus rewards just by trading on BitUnix over the next 4 weeks. By signing up to the link down below, you will automatically enter in this giveaway, in this campaign. You can find all information in a pinned comment of the free channel. Go ahead and check it out. And thanks to BitUnix for supporting this channel. Let's go ahead and jump in to the content. If you are looking for a new exchange or just want to support the channel, sign up to BitUnix with the link down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45% based on your trading volume, as well as access to a bonus reward center, and of course, all of the exclusive campaigns we run on this exchange. You'll also get access to BitUnix being a non-KYC exchange, meaning you can sign up from anywhere in the globe without regulations. And most importantly, I only promote exchanges I trust and I use. As you can see, I trade on BitUnix very regularly, being the highest VIP level with over $500 million in trading volume for the last 30 days. And lastly, if you were interested in signing up to our other two exchanges, BingX or BitGet, you can also do that via the links down below. You as well will get the 15% trading fee discount and everything else that comes with it. Go ahead and sign up. Thank you for supporting. Let's jump back in. Okay, legends, let's start off. Now, there's a lot to take a look at today. There's almost too much to take a look at today. So we're going to break it down, starting on the weekly close, jumping over to the daily, then discussing Bitcoin on the short term, what's happening, and then wrap it up with the 4-year cycle, what we expect with the 4-year cycle, and tops in. Let's take a look. So the weekly chart closes. Let's start on the total cryptocurrency and altcoin market, because we briefly touched on this already. Now, the total cryptocurrency market cap and altcoin market cap, even Bitcoin, are all at pretty critical levels of resistance. Now, the total cryptocurrency market cap here on the left, as you can see, is pressing into that $4 trillion psychological point of resistance, but it is sitting very, very slightly above the 3.95 trillion prior weekly range high. So very, very clear invalidations for the bearish case and the bullish case here. For us to expect strong corrections down to the total cryptocurrency market, we want to see a drop below 3.95 trillion. That would confirm this push as deviation, simply suggesting that during the breakout, the buyers were able to absorb the selling enough to push the price higher, but they have not been met with enough demand at these levels to maintain the price above that horizontal weekly high, suggestive of bullish weakness and of course the sellers jumping back in control, which likely results in breakdowns into prior levels of liquidity, looking at that sell side liquidity. So a potential breakdown of 3.95 trillion would likely result in not only a mean reversion occurring, not only a deviation setup developing with a bearish divergence, but a correction potentially as low as 3.65 trillion into this sell side liquidity. So that is worst case scenario. Of course, that is something to watch depending how the altcoin market develops, particularly with Bitcoin dominance seemingly to continue to drop towards the 200 moving average. The altcoin market, particularly Ethereum and some high cap alts, are really bolstering the total cryptocurrency market cap. If we look at the total cryptocurrency market cap just from a candlestick perspective, and then look at Bitcoin on the weekly, the total cryptocurrency market cap is up around this range where Bitcoin is down over here. Again, that is because Bitcoin dominance has been falling, but it also tells us there's a lot of optimism in the market, and it also tells us the altcoin market is kind of holding the total market cap at these levels. So if we see any sort of correction here for the altcoin market and for Ethereum, we will likely see a strong reaction for the total market cap as well, bringing the rest of the market down. So we are watching that very closely, but to see whether or not that is going to correct, we need to pay a little bit more attention to how Ethereum is moving, how altcoins are moving. So the total cryptocurrency market cap, altcoin market is good for that, and of course for Bitcoin. So watching that very closely. While we remain above 3.95 trillion, we're really battling with 4 trillion. So we're battling between that horizontal level here and that horizontal level here. Depending on how we break, whether we break above 4 trillion, we expect continuations into buy side liquidity, or we break below, we expect strong corrections. Either way, we are pretty high up over here. We've got negative momentum. We're coming into a retest of a apex between the horizontal and the diagonal. The risk is definitely there for correction, so pay attention to that. The altcoin market is as well looking a little sketchy, as we've mentioned a few days ago. When we look for breakouts of horizontal levels, ideally, we really want to see positive momentum. And unfortunately, right now, we are not seeing positive momentum. We have got, of course, a downtrend on the RSI spanning back from the prior bearish divergence from our prior higher highs, and we've got these lower highs on the RSI spanning and dragging that across. We can see the RSI is sitting underneath that trend line at resistance. Not a great sign. It's not the be all and end all. It doesn't mean we're going to see corrections, but it does increase the risk of corrections, and most importantly, it decreases the potential for breakouts to occur. It doesn't confirm they're not going to. It just signifies that a breakout is going to be a little harder if momentum isn't on the side, if we don't have that aggressive buying strength occurring. And we can see that visibly through these candlesticks over here. We can see 2 weekly candle retests in the last 2 weeks, breaking above but not being able to maintain above. So a sign of a lot of selling occurring, and this is a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing because with this sheer amount of selling, if there is enough demand to actually break through, it is very likely we're going to see a massive short liquidation, a short squeeze push for altcoins up towards the upside, and a large move upwards. But if it doesn't break, we could see reversals develop from this exact point. So again, there's always going to be a risk return trade-off of every decision you make in investing in trading. That is the risk return. It's very high risk to be taking positions right at this resistance, expecting breakouts with negative momentum. But when that breakout does happen, if it does happen, I would expect strong clear uptrends to develop for the altcoin market. But of course, I'm going to stress, we're at resistance. There is a very strong chance of corrections over here, so pay attention to that. Let's jump over to weekly chart for Bitcoin. The weekly chart for Bitcoin did not close well. It didn't close well. As I've said already, for the weekly chart for Bitcoin to have a good close, we need to close a weekly above this 117.5k resistance. If we zoom into the short term, that is essentially going to be this horizontal resistance over here. So we'll come back and discuss in regards to the short term in a second. But for the Bitcoin price action to continue to 124, 122, 120,000, we need to break above 117.5. That is an absolute must. But in terms of the weekly chart, closing above 117.5 is a must because That candle opening price was the opening of when the RSI dropped below 62.09. So remember a few weeks ago we were discussing breakdowns of 62.09 historically have resulted in corrections for Bitcoin of greater than 10%. Well, we saw a correction for Bitcoin. It wasn't 10%. We saw a correction of around 8.6%. So very close to 10%, right? Either way, the breakdown of 62.09 really close. But what we need to see, guys, is of course the RSI to break back above the 62.09, the candle to close back above that 117.5 level to invalidate the risk of that further continuation downward. So only upon the close on the weekly above 117.5, the 62.09 breaking back upwards, do we invalidate that negative 10% risk. And do we expect to then see continuations upwards? As a consequence of that, we would see Bitcoin break through this local resistance in the short term, which is required to see moves up into this higher resistance. Until then, the potential for corrections or rejections back to 112 and for Bitcoin back into these levels remain very much intact. So the weekly candle wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was literally just neutral. We printed a doji candle. This is a neutral sideways consolidation. But generally what we expect is when we see these neutral patterns, neutral candles develop after larger bodied candles, sometimes it means we are expecting reversals. But what it suggests that during the week after a large surge in bullish activity, we saw a either increased surge in bearish activity or a diminishing amount of bullish demand. So either way, that can be expressed as weakness. It can be taken as weakness. That is something to pay attention to, guys. Of course, best case scenario for the weekly, we break above, we close above, we expect continuations aggressively upwards. Again, by doing that, by breaking 117.5, we would of course also see the total altcoin market cap break up. We would see the total cryptocurrency market cap break up. But of course, those are risk factors. As we said, the entire market is at resistance right now, as we can see with these two charts and with Bitcoin as well. So watching that on the weekly. Let's jump over to the short-term charts, guys. So we have a few charts to take a look at on the short term, but I want to start on the immediate short term. So this is going to be the 4-hourly chart and the daily chart. So the daily chart is very important. As we can see, if we're looking at the daily chart, we have come up to retest the lower high on the daily, the sell side liquidity, the buy side liquidity, and we have currently rejected with a Marcus V red dot print and a breakdown on the daily RSI, all signifying of potential top and rejection. So we know context is important, and context tells us right now we created a higher high, and now we are potentially creating lower highs as we move this downtrend. This downtrend is still intact, provided we remain below 117.5. We had a very strong 22-day long uptrend, but the uptrend has now ended. And the question is, will the buyers be able to absorb this selling pressure, reversing the price upwards and through resistance, or are the sellers going to regain and remain in control? We'll discuss that in a second. But it's very important to contextualize what is happening over here in terms of context, In terms of context, we are sitting at a major point of resistance, and we have rejected. For the buyers to push the price up into the next resistance, we need to clear through here. So if you thought about it like this, the price action came down, it retested the 3-day 50 EMA and Gaussian channel. We had a positive momentum shift. It established the uptrend. We reached resistance. That is the maximal expected move of the uptrend. Now to expect another move up, we need to break through resistance. So until then, we run the risk of corrections down. And that's how you should be looking at it from a probabilistic point of view. Now, let's take a look at the 4-hour, because we're running out of time. Then we'll talk about the top and the 4-year cycle, etc, etc. So the 4-hour chart, guys, we of course have broken down. It's not a great sign over here. We of course also seen a breakdown in the RSI, again taking these points from the uptrend established low. Of course, that is where we're watching that trend establish and just dragging it through. We can also see a breakdown on the price action. And very important, if we zoom into the hourly, we can see rejections from the 116,000. So if we want to see an attempt for a pushback to 117.5 to 117, which I'll just remind you is the resistance we need to break above to be bullish on Bitcoin, okay? And the total cryptocurrency market cap and the altcoin market cap, because that will result in these markets going up. For us to even see that move, we need to get above 116. So breaking 116 is the trigger for a move upwards. You can look for long positions into resistance, and then breaking that resistance will be the trigger for a swing upwards into the high range high, okay? Which will be bullish for the whole market. But if we remain underneath this resistance, we are going to be pushing into the sell side liquidity, which we're coming up. We're coming up to test it now, 115, right? Sell side liquidity. Or we run the risk of coming a little lower into this point of support. 114.3, okay? 114.3, another support. We lose that support, we're just laddering down. 113.5, 112. So we're watching those supports as the price action develops. Every single one of those supports are potential reversal points for the price action. Every single one of those. So watch those very, very carefully. That is it for Bitcoin, guys. Now, in terms of macro consequence, the easiest way to explain this would be, provided Bitcoin remains above around 114 on the weekly and around 112 on the daily, we are still bullish. We still have a chance to see continuations upwards. But if we want to see those direct continuations, those rapid moves up, that strength return, 118, 117.5, that is the point we need to break above to then just go bullish mode again, okay? So let's now finish up in the 4-year cycle. Now, if we look historically, guys, and this is very important, if we look historically at when the top has been in for Bitcoin and when the top has been in for the total altcoin market cap, it's been about a 26 to 30, I think it's about a 26 to 34 day difference, okay? That ranges up to around 3 weeks. So about a 3 week to 4 week difference in the top points of the total cryptocurrency market cap and when Bitcoin tops. If we are looking at when Bitcoin assumed to top 14th of September, and this current rejection point here is about 35 days from that rejection point. If we're looking at the total altcoin market cap and we take that date, that 14th of August date onto this chart here, the altcoin market cap, and we take a look at what that means, we can look at the 14th of August, drag out around about 34, 35 days, and that is smack bang in that date range. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say historically, the altcoin market has run upwards after Bitcoin has topped in prior cycles around about 30 to 40 days. It's been a rough amount, and we are cutting in that window right now. So when we look at why altcoins have been doing better, Bitcoin dominance has been falling, you know, the altcoin markets have a resistance, maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe it's because this is exactly what we've seen in the past and we're seeing it play out again. Maybe this is the top for the altcoin market, and maybe the top has already been in for Bitcoin. Now, this isn't me saying it's in, this is just throwing ideas out there. Let me know what you think. If we look at the 4-year cycle, we had a negative 2-bar theory. No one was talking about the negative 2-bar theory except us. This isn't for me to say I claim it. I think anyone who says they claim a theory is dumb, right? They're in the charts. The theories are in the charts. I didn't make up the negative 2-bar theory. I was the first one to talk about it, but the data was already there. What the negative 2-bar theory suggests, it suggests that every cycle has been diminishing in length by around 2 months. And that would have given us our August top instead of an October top. And we have seen a top on the 14th of August supposedly for now. And that top is expected to remain if we stay under 117.5. So it is assumed that this is the top, provided this resistance holds. If we do not break this resistance, it is very likely this is the top. If we break this resistance, we see continuations into new highs. Very simple. Now, in terms of the 4-year cycle, do I think the 4-year cycle will break? I absolutely believe the 4-year cycle will break. Will it break this time, next time? I do not know. No one knows that for sure, but it will very, very likely break at some point. So we may see a top happen, a few months of correction, then a new all-time high happen, or we might just see the price continue upwards, or we might just see the 4-year cycle play out perfectly. Either way, I'll say it one more time. The 4-year cycle is diagnostic. It is not designed for actionable decision-making information. It is designed for you to have a rough guide on how the price has historically reacted, to then apply that speculatively forward and then see how the price may respond. Now, it has played out very well in the past. that does increase the potential of it playing out more in the future, but doesn't guarantee anything. So we need to be aware of the risks of blindly following the 4-year cycle, particularly now that, so many people are aware of it, so many people are expecting it. That may actually go to decrease the chance of it occurring if there's any sort of influence from external parties with large sums of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or deep pockets to purposely move the price in a way that invalidates the 4-year cycle. So there's also a potential risk this time. So either way, guys, pay attention. Something to look. We're watching the short term for our definitive directional decision-making processes and, of course, to determine how the price is going to move. Thank you for tuning in. Have a fantastic day. Let me know down below. Do you think the top is in Bitcoin? And I want to kind of redefine the word top. I want to move the word from top away from the framework of the 4-year cycle. I want to use the word top in the literal sense, which is every single major reversal point has been a top and bottom. I think that is the way we need to start talking about tops and bottoms again, because I think a lot of people hear the word top and they think, oh, top, oh, top, oh, top. But they ignore every other single major reversal point. So do you think this was a top point for Bitcoin? Do you think we're going to see continuations lower? Or do you think we're just going to reverse and push back to all-time high? I'm personally leaning towards lower corrections, provided these resistances hold. But we also are aware if we break through, we will see continuations. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll catch you guys all in the next video tomorrow. See you then.